longer video, and here we are. Um, I'm trying to get I'm recording this on the laptop, and so I apologize if it's grainy. I've cleaned the camera lens and I don't know what that's about. Um, but one of the topics that I wanted to discuss is the title of this video. First, let me preface that by saying I've been single for 30 years. Here's why. And I'm going to explain that in this video. And I know a lot of people are like, who cares, right? Um, I'm over 50 and I'm finally at peace. And I think that there is a great big movement out there, from what I've seen on my feed anyway, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, that there's just so much to be said for peace. When you have a life that's busy, you're in the rat race for a long time, you've been working since, like me, since 13, 14 years old, pushing 60. And so that's over 43 plus years you've been working. Um, but that is not the topic for today. But part of it, the peace part, and you've heard me talk about this on the shorts, peace is super important to me because I didn't have a lot of it in my younger years due to working three jobs, going to school, raising children, and of course, all my choice, right? Um, but in fact, being single might in fact be one of the best choices I've ever made, or best decisions I've ever concluded for myself. Now, I know that's not what people expect to hear, especially from a woman over 50, because we've been told um, that we're supposed to want a partner, to not be alone, to find someone, right? But what if I told you that being single is actually where I found the most peace? After two divorces, in my younger years, like my last divorce was in 1996, so it's literally been 30 years. Um, I have been able to use that time to find out what matters to me. And, uh, it's important to locate for yourself what brings you peace, what doesn't bring you peace. And as I get older, that's what's most important to me, is my peace and my serenity and my tranquil environment. That's why I'm creating this for myself at Ravens Ridge. Um, but what if I told you that being single is actually the best thing that's up to date ever happened to me at this age and at this time in my life? Um, so for me, being single wasn't always some big intentional decision at the beginning. I was married young, had kids young, have grandkids. And I'm glad that I had them young, because I don't think there's ever a perfect time to have children. Um, Most of the country, you're not a millionaire. You can't be 100% financially stable. Um, and they're blessings. Children are blessings. And they don't come with a booklet of instructions, right? So um, life just kind of unfolded for me that way. I have been engaged in the 30 years three times, and each time it didn't work out, obviously, because the disruption of my peace became evident to me the closer I got to tying the knot. Not saying that the gentlemen were bad or terrible or at all, they weren't. Um, but the thought of giving up some peace and serenity and being responsible for someone else's, uh, at least not 100%, but contributing to their happiness and things like that, when I didn't know what brought me happiness at the time, I thought was a poor decision. Um, so over time, though, I started to realize something. Every time I thought about being in a relationship, again, I wasn't excited. I had no desire to be in a relationship. The novelty wore off, and that's the thing too, is the emotions tie into the decision making process, and then we base our decisions on emotions, and that's not something that um, a lot of people can get out of or recognize or identify before it happens. That's why I think there's so many divorces in this country. um, and so I'm just trying to figure out the stuff on the computer, sorry. um, I felt pressure every time I was engaged and about to be married. So that was, to me, God's way of saying, nope, not the right partner, not the right situation. You're not making the correct decision. Again, Beth, pay attention. Um, Over time, though, I started to realize something. And every time I thought about being in a relationship again, I wasn't excited. I felt a lot of pressure. I felt my peace was disrupted. I felt extremely um, like anxious. Anxious is probably the best word. And that's not from God. Anxiety is not from God, in my opinion. Pressure to compromise, pressure to adjust my life, pressure to give up a level of peace that I had worked so hard to build and was continuing to build. And I'm still, like, I would say today 90-10, where I'm peaceful 90% of the time and 10%, work related stress, um, familial related stress, all those things that do play a part. I'm human, I'm not immune to any of that. Um, Pressure to give up a level of peace that I had taken so long to build. And I always tell everybody when I was a counselor, um, that if you are going to get divorced, do not hop right into another relationship. Give yourself at least 3 to 6 months for every year that you're married, and you need to be alone. So, if you're married for a year and you get divorced, give yourself 3 to 6 months to heal. Do not hop right into an immediate relationship. Um, and somewhere along the way, through my 30 years, I stopped asking, why am I still single? There's still a pressure in society today to be single. Um, and I started asking the question, why would I give this up? Why would I give my peace up? I can go and come as I please. I don't need to be held accountable, responsible to anybody but my animals. Um, and so sometimes in a relationship with my animals, right, where I have to be home at a certain time to make sure that they get fed and things like that. And I say animals because I was going to tell you guys this. I'll make another video later. We have an addition to the family that I decided to get, and I'll introduce him later. Um, Peace became more important than companionship. And at this stage in life, peace is everything to me. No drama, no emotional roller coasters, no walking on eggshells. My home is calm, my mind is calm, and I protect that. That's plain and simple. Because once you've experienced real peace like I have, it's very hard to trade that for chaos. Um, I built a life I don't want to disrupt. And somebody, if I ever met anybody, would have to contribute to the peace and not disrupt it. And, I'm not looking. I'm not actively looking. I'm not on sites. I'm not, a lot of my things I do alone, hiking, biking, walking, take the dog with me. I interact with individuals in the community who are elderly, a lot older than me. I'm actually one of the youngest people in my new community here. And they're lovely people, and I interact with the community. Um, I have my routines, I have my space, I have my um, life the way I like it. And I'm not saying that it's bad to disrupt that and to be spontaneous, it's not. Um, I think there's something people don't talk about enough. When you've spent years building a life that works for you, it's not easy or even desirable to rearrange it for someone else. It's not. I always told everybody, they're like, well, what happens if you meet someone that just can add to your peace instead of take away from it? And I'm like, that's great. They can stay in their house, I can stay in my house, and we can get together for, to go out, to will hike, or to be in one another's lives. I don't feel that I need to live with someone in order to be happy. I don't need to be in a partnership in order to be happy. Um, I have no desire to disrupt my peace at this time. I stopped believing I was missing something. Um, Everybody tries to hook you up and set you up on dates because they don't want you to be alone, because that's the old programming, I feel like, from the 70s and the 80s. I mean, and for millennia, as far as we know, it's always been about women needing a partner. And I mean, I don't think we are sent to be here to be alone. But I also know too that the longer I'm alone, it's harder to not want to be alone. I don't know if that makes sense. Let me know in the comments. But for me, my peace is everything. I am extremely blessed and abundantly blessed in this lifetime, and I don't overlook that one bit. And to be quite honest, it gives me more time to figure out myself even more and to be the best person that I can be. Um, I've seen the alternative, and it's not always better. I've watched relationships that were stressful, draining, and unfulfilling. I've had two of those myself, and so I know. Um, and it made me realize that being in a relationship is not ultimately better than being alone. The wrong relationship will cost you your peace faster than anything else on the planet. It'll cost you your financial peace. It'll cost I'm sorry, it will cost you your um, inner peace, everything. And it's just not worth it to me. And it's not about being fearful. This does not come from a place of fear. This comes from years of evolution within my own heart, mind, body, and soul. Um, Now I'm not saying that being single is perfect. It does have its challenges. Like I have to hire people to come and do stuff and I have to ask for help, which is hard for me. I'm not used to asking for help. Um, would it be nice to have someone to share things with? Sure. But we'd have to have, really mutual agreement on a lot of things. So if you're over 50 and single, I want you to know this. You are not behind. Um, you are not missing out. You're allowed to build a life that feels good to you, even if it doesn't look like everyone else's. You don't need to compare yourself to the Joneses. You don't need to, um, you know, uh, feel less than because somebody else has more or something else. That's something that you need to work on if that's how you're feeling, because this is a consumer's world, right? So for me, 30 years being single isn't something I feel bad about. It's something I understand now. And honestly, I wouldn't trade the peace I have today for anything. If this resonates with you, I'd really love to hear from you. Um, are you single by choice, by circumstance, or somewhere in between? Do you feel the pressure from society to um, be in a partnership? And I feel that most people stay in a partnership for fear of being alone and fear of you know um, not being accepted. If you're doing something from a place of fear, that's not from that's not a correct way to do it. You need to come from a place of love. And everybody says, I'm tired of hearing about the love and how I have to love myself. And it's true though. Straight up, it's true. So if this message resonates with you, let me know. Say something in the comments. Tell me your story. I'd love to hear it. I just want to say, everybody, I started out with 23 subscribers. I'm up to 84. And I know I don't do a lot of great editing. I don't do a lot of great topics. I do things that matter to me because I myself am drawn to other topics that resonate with me and my lifestyle. So everybody's in a different stage in their life. So if you like this video, you like the content, please like, share, and subscribe, and I would really appreciate it.